Hi, my name is Mackenzie Ford, and I'm a first-year master's student studying school counseling at West Virginia University. Today, I'd like to show you the Triune hand model. So, as you can imagine, we're going to be using our hands today. And before we get started, I really like to just describe to you what the hand model is. So, the Triune hand model really allows others to understand their brain and why it is that they are feeling the way they're feeling and how they're reacting. Yeah, it really helps them understand that. So today we're going to break out our hands, and I will be showing you how to demonstrate this hand model to an age group about from 6 to 12 years of age. We'll go for a mid-range of that. And this is just an example of how you can show the hand model to students, to children, anyone in that age range that may be having some issues with really understanding why they are feeling the way they're feeling and why their emotions are running their life. Before we get started, I'd really like to stress that behavior is purposeful and thinking is purposeful, and we can control that. And this Triune hand model really helps us to understand the processes behind that. So let's go ahead and get started. So everyone break out their right hand. First, I'd like to walk you through just how similar our hand is to our brain. If we close our hand into a fist, we have a brain. Okay, it's very similar to what our brain looks like. But not only is our hand similar, but our whole arm can be considered part of our body. So let's start with our forearm, right? Our forearm kind of mimics our spine. And every kind of reaction runs through our spine. That impulse is going straight up our spine to our brain. So if we can think of our arm as our spine, we're going to travel up our arm until we hit our wrist. And that's when we hit our neck. And we can actually feel there's a dip in our wrist that feels similar to the dip that's in our neck. So I'd like everyone to feel that for me. See how similar it is. So we're traveling up our spine to our neck. And then here, and this is how we'll break it down simply for a student or a child that is 6 to 12 years of age, is we will call this, we'll say simply, this is our brain stem. And this lower part of our hand, think of the very bottom of our palm, is what we like to call our downstairs brain. Our downstairs brain is what the term that I would use for a 6 to 12-year-old child, because frankly, the terminology is a little beyond, but if you think the student is ready for that, that's something that you can add. So we have our downstairs brain, also known as the reptilian brain. And the reptilian part of our brain really, there's no thought. It controls things that we don't have to think about, like blinking, breathing, sleeping. It's not something that we have to consciously think about. So this downstairs part of our brain, or our reptilian brain, really controls all of those basic functions. Then I'd like you to take a look at your thumb, and I'd like you to cross it over your palm. So we have this. This is what we call the mammalian brain. To a child, I just like to call it the emotional part of their brain. This middle part focuses on their emotions. So you might have a student or a child come to you and say they are feeling angry or sad or even happy. Any kind of emotion runs through this middle part of our brain, our mammalian brain. And our mammalian brain is really the thing that separates us from other animals, especially reptiles. While this reptilian brain is basic functioning as with reptiles, this mammalian brain allows us to connect with others, to feel empathy, right? So think of mammals and how they connect with their young and their children. This is our feeling part of our brain, where emotions come from. And it's very important that you explain this to them. Then I would like you to slowly curve your fingers over top of your thumb. Now, to a child, we would call this our upstairs brain. And our upstairs brain really is very logical. It controls all of our logical thinking. And it's very interesting that this logical part covers our emotions. This really keeps a lid on things. Now, this is called the cortical region. And we've got a bunch of different things here. We've got our prefrontal cortex. Um, it's really just about thinking. Higher order thinking is here. Like I said before, it's interesting how this part covers our emotions because it really keeps a lid on things and it keeps us level headed. But sometimes when children, and this is how I would explain to them, they're feeling very, very angry and they're just not understanding, and something has come up and they're only using their emotions. And when that happens, when you're on an emotional overload, we flip our lid. We're not thinking rationally. We're not using our thinking part of our brain. That is blown. Okay? And it's important that they understand that these emotions can override rational thinking, and they can cause us to flip our lid. So just teaching students this process of how an impulse starts in our spine, works up to our neck and our brain stem, through our downstairs brain to our emotions, and when it's too much, how we flip our lid. We have lost all rational thinking. And to bring them back, sometimes we have to meet them where they are. Sometimes they're not all the way flipped, and we can bring some rational words of advice to them, and they're able to process that. But when they can understand this in simple terms, this hand model looks similar to their brain, and it's something that they can understand. When it's something that they can look at and they can feel and they can understand the process of why this is happening. And then for an older person on the scale, we are doing 6 to 12-year-olds today. For a person maybe on the top of that scale, 11 or 12 years of age, we can talk about how each side of our brain focuses more on different things. For instance, our right side of our brain focuses on social and connectedness to other people, while our left side of our brain is much more logical and wants reason and needs data, and how these two can really interact with each other to keep us balanced. That's something you might want to incorporate when talking to an older child. But really, this is a great method for teaching children how to understand their emotions and why they are feeling the way they're feeling, how when they are so overridden with their emotions, they're angry, they're sad, and they can't think logically. They can understand that when that happens, their lid is flipped. They're not thinking rationally because their emotions have taken over. And that is the Triune hand model, and how that can help students, especially this age group that I'm talking about, 6 to 12 years of age, understand the processes and things behind why things are happening that way. Again, my name is Mackenzie Ford. I'm a first-year master's student studying school counseling at West Virginia, and I'm glad you could watch today.